We're live. Welcome to M&E Podcast, Episode 5, Adult Swim. How you
Yes.
feeling today, Ryan?
Feeling pretty good. Just full disclosure, it is morning, so
Yeah.
forgive me if I'm shaking some of the cobwebs off.
Right.
I would say a majority of the episodes that we've done, if not all, have been after 3 p.m., 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
more
I was
toward
thinking that
evening.
this morning. I'm like,
Yeah,
all right, we're trying the morning
yeah.
grind
Like
out.
I
Let's see
don't, I
how
don't
it
crack my
goes.
knuckles, but insert some sort of sound effect in post.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. How are you feeling? More
I'm feeling
importantly.
pretty good. Anytime I have like Instacart actually let me put an order in, I feel pretty
Oh,
good.
you got it in?
Like my confidence starts out pretty high.
Do you want to give the audience a little bit of a backstory about,
Sure.
what
Yeah.
you've been trying to do and why this is such a big victory?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, given everything going on, we've gone out a few weeks ago and we stocked up on various things. But like now, just to kind of restock things that we're using,
Yeah.
I've been leveraging Instacart, but given the pandemic and everything, they haven't been as reliable.
Right.
But I have noticed a hack where if I order in between like 7 and 8:15, I mean, I thought the window was 8:30 or so, given my own prior orders. And then yesterday I was about to press it at like 8:15. It would have been okay. And then I
Yeah.
went to add in a few more things. And by 8:21, too late.
I
Too
saw
late.
her.
I
I saw her miss the window. It was a sad sight to see.
Yeah, I'm like
I was like, why? I was like, why do you look so bummed? And you're like, because I've been putting this cart together, and then I just tried to check out, and just when I tried to check out, it shows me that it was available a minute ago. I'm like,
Yeah,
don't say
it's
anything to
just
Kate
like,
for a
come
little bit.
on.
Yeah.
So this morning I
Mhm.
got on there and I was able to, place an order. So we'll see. It's like
Sure.
until it gets delivered, I'm not gonna.
No
But I'm feeling pretty good just
Yeah.
knowing that there's one in the queue.
There's one in the queue.
So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, I'm not sure about the way it works, but as I understand with Instacart, isn't it similar to Uber that somebody has to kind of like pick up, like, hey, I'm going to go shop for this person?
I honestly have no idea how
Yeah.
it works. Like on the other, I've been meaning
Right.
to look it up to see if my theory about like the ordering window is true.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I don't
because
know.
if it is that way or any bit similar to that way, what I would imagine is right now, from what I hear, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and a lot of
Yeah.
people are filing for unemployment. A lot of people, like, I mean, I'm freelance, so it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, luckily I have investments and, other things that are keeping me afloat right now, but it's just like, I really feel for freelancers that would be going gig to gig, servers that,
Yeah, anybody.
spent all their tips from last week, because that's just how it goes. I was a server for 5 years. It's just certain industries right now are really, really being hit hard. So I would imagine that people are lining up to both accept deliveries if they're already an Instacart driver or
Mhm.
whatnot, or shopper or whatever you want to call
Well, I
them.
think sometimes it's two different people. Like one person shops,
Oh,
one delivers. I think sometimes
that's
two.
interesting.
I think certain
How does that work
stores.
though?
I don't know. Probably it's like a pass off. Maybe I really have no idea. It just seems like it'll be one person shopping and another person delivering.
Again, I have to go back to the question that both of us have asked. How do they make any money? How does Instacart make any money? And I'm like, I'm rhetorically and seriously asking that. Like, if somebody from Instacart can contact me and explain how you guys make money and probably break some type of corporate law, that would be wonderful. I'd love to find out.
Yeah. Well, I will say, anytime that there's an app on your phone, there's the ability for a company to, leverage the data they're collecting. Not even if they're
That's a good
selling
point.
it, but
No, that's a
even
good
just
point.
to like
Yeah.
model their customer behavior better, to have better predictions on who we are and how we're going to
Right.
order and various things. It's like that's valuable.
Well,
right
that
there.
just made me think of something that, what if you ran two companies, but one was more to look like, hey, this is going to be kind of a loss leader, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to lead the charge in customer service and like
Mhm.
grabbing data. And then my other company is going to buy that data.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? To the point where like then the company that ends up using it for leverage and profit, like
Mhm.
ultimate profit, never had to do any of this good natured service and stuff like that. But they learned tactics to be able to capitalize and slide in little elements of, what they learned
Mhm.
over here while they lost a lot of money.
Yeah, I think things like GDPR and I believe CCPA here is starting to crack down on that.
Yeah.
So
Well, because didn't GDPR California come after GDPR in Europe?
Yeah,
in the EU or whatever
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
That's crazy how it had a ripple effect, you know,
Hmm.
because I first heard of GDPR in, you know, one of your former
Yeah.
you know, careers, but or former jobs, but basically when I first heard about it, it was like all this data privacy stuff, and then I started getting contacted by California entities, like companies that I subscribed to or did business with or whatnot, that were like, just to let you know, we're now
Hmm.
subscribed to GDPR. We do respect your data. If you do need to
Yeah.
download it, and I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
I
But now it's normal.
Yeah, I think it'd be really eye-opening to the average consumer if they were to see how much like companies all over the world have collected about them, either via their own
Yeah.
applications or programs or just by sourcing it through other means.
Right.
Like, you know.
Like with Equifax, you know, getting
Mhm.
hacked. I mean, what arguably anybody would say that's like the largest credit bureau,
Mhm.
you know, if not at least the top three, because that's how it rolls. Is Equifax, TransUnion, and then what was the third one? Obviously
I'm really
not
blanking on them.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you know, TransUnion, like it's
Yeah.
like if that one even got hacked, I'd be like, well, at least it wasn't Equifax, you know, like that would be where my mind goes. But
Mhm.
Equifax got hacked, so it's like all of our credit information, all of our credit histories
Mhm.
are sold on the dark web every day now, you know. And a lot of people, they don't understand how that works. They go, well, what's the dark web? I don't even go on there, so what do I got to worry about? Well, people that deal with you every day in your, you know, day-to-day life, postmen, you know, like all these people, there have been proven to be like at least one person in like every sector, you know, that like lurks on the dark web. So like, you know, you got to know that once your information's out there, it's probably being sold or already has been sold at least a few times. So like you're saying, with these corporations, like they're storing a lot of data, and sometimes they're not even maliciously trying to store it for where it ends up being used. You know what I mean? Like it's never their intention to have it sold to some overseas nefarious company, but maybe they store it and then it gets hacked. And then now everything that they stored innocently with, you know, good motives, good practices in mind, you know, and good security probably at one point. But we all know how like firmware updates happen, different protocols change, things like that. And maybe there's a crack that gets created. And then that's where these hackers and that's where these, you know, data pirates basically like to prey on. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Scary world.
it's a scary world, yeah. And I mean, with that said, like it's like we're still in coronavirus time, so it's like
Yeah.
now you've got to watch out for a virus on your computer. You got to watch out for
Yeah.
a virus in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, but yeah. So with that said, wanted to tell the audience that we are going to get some upgrades coming up in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Yeah.
Can almost guarantee it though, because over at the Zcam team, they're working on a lot of stuff. And as you may know from previous episodes, we use the Zcam E2 to film the podcast, at least currently. And we love Zcam, love everything that we've seen that's come out of it. And you know, we've only had the camera for a short time, so really haven't even put it through the paces yet. But I mean, I would say about 99.5% of everything we've seen from it is incredible. You
Yeah.
know, so we're looking forward to what Zcam has cooking up, and what kind of upgrades we can offer to both, you know, the podcast and to our audience, and
Yeah.
really just future endeavors in general. We got a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, we're happy to help with user acceptance testing. Make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
everything's working.
Definitely. Yeah.
As
You know,
planned.
shout out to Kinson and Jason over at Zcam. Those guys are just so helpful and brilliant. And, you know, even during all of this, you know, which they're located in China, Zcam's team and company, even with all of this happening over there, they still have not stopped working and not stopped communicating with, you know, the community. And the community is really great too. So shout out to the community. I've had a lot of really helpful
Yeah.
people just say, oh, that's this or that's
Mhm.
this, you know, because even the lens that's on the Zcam right now, there was a little bit of play with it. And then this guy suggested put a little bit of gaff tape on the other side of the lens, like where it fits on the barrel. I didn't know that was even possible, but it is. And most camera people, including I'm sure a few people watching, go, oh, I got gaff tape, because, you know, that's the thing you want in your bag. It can save projects from falling apart basically on
Yeah.
set. You know, you can between that and duct tape, you know, pretty much anything can be put together.
Yeah.
So yeah, so looking forward to that. And then you already went over the deliveries that we got, but I do have to say I am enjoying my coffee the way I like it every day.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I was
You know,
worried.
hang
I was
on.
really
Shout out to Michelle
Sure.
here, my friend, for introducing us to this freeze-dried organic instant coffee,
Oh yeah.
which has really just been a game changer. Prior to this, we had been spending probably way too much money on cold brew concentrate
Yeah.
and then
And we
trying
went to
to
different companies too.
yeah,
so,
and
like,
it was just like we weren't really loyal to any one brand in
No.
particular. I mean, we had a favorite, but then it was more expensive, harder to find. So it was just kind of like, okay, when you saw it, cool, we'll have this for a week or two. But
right.
yeah, I really enjoy Mount Hagen. That's the
Hagen,
brand.
yeah.
You can find it on Amazon, but I've found better deals on. I think it's called Licky Vitamin. I'll have to.
Well, which is
double
good
check
that they have
yeah.
different distributors, you know,
Yeah.
because sometimes, especially with these companies, like I had never heard of Mount Hagen, but especially with these companies that, like, you know, aren't mainstream necessarily. No offense to Mount Hagen, but you know, sometimes you can only find them at one spot. You know, like the dog food. You know,
Right.
it's like it's very limited where we find the dog food that our dogs eat. But you know, it was nice to. I remember when you saw that the shipment was actually shipped. It was like, sweet, we're good on coffee
Yeah.
for a little bit, and you know, I saw that, and then in addition, the Instacart driver ended up picking up from, I think, Vaughn's, was
She
it?
came in clutch. Yeah, household order too. She's
Yeah.
like, nah, these aren't for me. Walked out with 5. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey,
I don't.
I
yeah.
mean, I appreciate it. You
I
know,
don't think
it's like-
anybody got 5.
Yeah.
Like, I think she's the only person in LA County that got 5 Fairlifes, and shout out to her.
Yeah.
She's the real one.
Yeah, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to deny them. What am I going to
No.
do? Drive them back to the grocery store and say we got more than our limit?
No.
Like,
No.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I take it as a
I've been enjoying my coffee
yeah.
the right way. As you may have seen or heard from previous episodes, I like to have Fairlife chocolate milk. It's a little bit of a healthier milk. It's like pasteurized better or something. I don't know. It's a lot healthier the way that it is. And then we got the whole milk recently, the Fairlife whole milk. So now the way that or I shouldn't say we, but I like my coffee is about, you know, if it's a cup about yay high, I have about this much chocolate milk, and this much of it is the coffee, the Mount Hagen freeze dried, and then the last little bit whole milk. And if you just stir that around, you know, go do something for a couple minutes and then come back to it, it's like creamy, it's like silky. It really tastes good. So
Can
I mean,
just
this
say all
this
the
is not a paid
baristas are
spot.
judging you hard right now.
Oh, I never had.
They'd
a
be
career-
like, so he's a venti chocolate milk with a splash of espresso.
No,
and
like saying like
if
what
you
my
were to
drink
try
is?
and get that
Oh.
type of order somewhere else,
I
you'd
thought
be
you were
like
saying that they were
cobbling it
hating on me
together.
for my lack of knowledge of how to describe
No,
a
no,
drink
no,
because
no.
I'm
I was just
I'm butchering
thinking like
this.
how you'd have to, like, if you went to
Yeah.
you know, Starbucks and
If-
tried to create it that way, you'd be like, you know, those chocolate milks for kids? All right, rip the top off of 2 of those, put them in a venti cup, put a splash of whole milk, 3 shots of espresso, but ice them first,
Right.
and then pour it in,
Right.
and only light ice in the cup.
Yeah. And I'm gonna watch you do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not one of those guys. That
You
sounds
skipped a step.
that sounds really difficult. And
Yeah.
like just to be full disclosure, anytime we've gone to Starbucks, remember, like I'm like nervous to order it. I'm like, can you tell them? Because like I mean, you even helped me figure out what I want.
Yeah,
And it's
you
like a
just don't.
venti
You
ice
never end up
mocha.
liking Starbucks, so
Pretty-
it's just
pretty
kind of
much.
like
And-
because of how you drink your coffee, it's
Right.
pretty much pointless to get
I was
one
gonna say
anywhere
no offense
else.
to Starbucks. I just have to clarify because I like their breakfast sandwiches, and I'm sure I'd dig something from them. I mean, I used to have the frappuccinos when I had a high sugar diet,
Yeah.
But like, I just described my coffee, so I'm not gonna go ad nauseum about it. But what was really cool? I'm sure you saw me. What was it? 2 days ago? 4 days ago or like 5 days ago, I mounted my guitars
Mhm.
on the wall around my workstation, and maybe we'll post a picture to the Patreon to show people what we're talking about. But it's really cool. I have a acoustic electric Taylor, and then I have an electric like Squier Telecaster, and they're cool guitars. They do the job, but I haven't played guitar in a while because of the obvious move to LA from San Francisco. They were kind of in storage and transition. It just, if you're an artist, it's not really like the right time to play until it's the right time to play. But I picked up the electric the other day, and I mean, that's why I'm wearing a Band-Aid. I played for, I think it was 2 hours straight. Nobody asked me to,
Mhm.
I didn't have any real reason to, except for like, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool, you know. Kate went out and did some work in the garage, and I just jammed. And then, you know, we have um, one of those security cameras that everybody should have to monitor their home, which luckily let me download a clip later on. So it was like, hey, why not? You know, I have this clip of 2 hours of me jamming. So that was really cool. You know, it's like when I downloaded it, I was like, who knows if I'll ever share this with anybody or show it to anybody. But like, I watched it back and it was like, wow, there I am, like playing guitar again, you know, because just to give the audience a backstory, like, or, you know, a little bit of history with me and guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 12. I taught myself, and like pretty much never really got shown anything from anybody. So, I mean, it's been 22 years now of just kind of exploring. You know, I've played in a lot of bands, mostly played on my own, but you know, I've played and played and played. And
When did you start learning music again?
Music in general, I mean, as early as I can remember, because
Yeah.
my mom's a music teacher. So, you know, shout out to my mom. Appreciate you passing on the talent, because I mean, my dad definitely has no musical ability whatsoever. And, you know, if what they say about, and I mean, it should be by now, but what they say about genetics with like musical ability and creative ability is a lot of the time you can get it from your mother stronger, because like dominant and recessive genes and whatnot, like it's a dominant gene, at least from what I read about with music. That's why like a lot of the times that you'll hear of like really, really good musicians, whether they're female or male, they'll talk about how their mother was a musician, you know? And I mean, it's not to say that people with fathers who are musicians aren't good. I'm sure they're, you know, just as good, if not better, but it's just one of those things. Like if you have a mother that played music or painted or anything like that, it's a different type of, transcendence, I guess you
Yeah, I
could
would
say.
think there's more nurturing there.
Yeah. Well, and what was cool too is that like, you know, my dad passed on his athletic ability, which I appreciate, so that I'm not, you know, like out of shape and like having all kinds of, you know, respiratory issues right now. You know, it's like at least I did enough athletics growing up where I can breathe pretty easy, you know, for the most part. So I'm thankful for that. And then on the art side of it, my mom nurtured that for sure, because you know, her career, she just retired last year, but she was a music teacher for a long, long time, and she taught like chorus and private piano lessons. She still teaches private piano lessons, but you know, it's just like music's always been a strong force in her life. So I appreciate the fact that I was encouraged, whether it be directly or passively. You know, it was never discouraged. You know, and you know, what.
My dad would tell me to practice my instruments in the garage.
Right.
And we had a detached garage, but I mean, I also had like no natural ability that I got from either one of my parents in the music department. So I was bad.
Yeah.
Like I'm bad trying to blare through a flute or blare through a baritone. And my dad's like, yeah, you can, it's warm enough. You can do that out there if you're going to have to do it.
Right. Yeah. I have no idea, how good or bad Kate was at her instruments, but from the description of the way that her parents reacted, it sounds like she wasn't first chair.
Even the teachers had no faith in me.
Really?
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
mean?
For context, I was in the freshman band 3 years straight in high school. So as a freshman, sophomore, and junior, I was in the freshman band when it wasn't marching band season. That meant that even as a junior in high school, I played the same songs in like a concert that I did in 7th and 8th grade, because they had recycled like especially like the Christmas one that like every like 4 measures it like switches to a different like holiday like spirit. I'm sure I could find it if I Googled it, but yeah. So let me just tell you, like,
Wait, if you Googled your concert?
no.
Oh,
If
I
you
was gonna say
Googled
that
like
would
the
be-
song I'm trying to
I'm
find,
about
I'm
to go
sure I
Google
could
that.
find it. No.
I was gonna say if we could find you playing that concert, I would Google that all
Well,
day.
actually,
until I find it.
there were some pretty proud band parents, so I'm sure there are like if I looked
Clips.
hard enough, there's
Yeah.
old enough YouTube clips where I'm like, no, I was in marching band that year.
Wow.
I was probably on stage that year because I was in marching band, folks.
Uh-huh.
And again, I wasn't good, but
Well, how'd you get in it? Your
you
dad?
get past auditions, okay?
Is it like
and they
small
want you-
towns?
No,
with
I mean,
with mayors that vote
no.
unopposed.
No, there
Or,
was like
run unopposed?
180 people, I
Okay.
think, in the marching band.
So you beat out some people.
I don't know that they turned anybody down. I think they just put you so far in the back that they're like, hey,
Just march back there.
they're like, if you're willing to show up and be all the way back here and do it, fine.
You can be part of the squad
Yeah.
too.
Hey.
Well, that's cool. I played alto saxophone, full disclosure, and I was actually pretty good. I was second chair.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was second to last in
Second
my
to
freshman
last.
band, so it's like, come on. I would
3
have
years,
to
too.
like when I
Yeah.
played baritone, because I learned that when I was like a sophomore in high school. I had to write in the finger, like, you know, I'd be like, oh, 1 and 3, like
Right.
this is just the second
Oh,
finger.
trust me, I know those players. We
Yeah.
we made fun of them.
Yeah.
But no, it's okay. I mean, really, like, you know, even as I'm saying, like, we made fun of them, which was true. It's just like, you know, it's the cruel stuff that, like, you look back on that you did as a kid and you're like, why did I even do that? You know, because it's like looking back and, you know, even now, I have and had great musical ability. It's like, what if I would have maybe worked with one of those kids, like a Kate, and been
Mhm.
like, hey, you don't need to write that down. Let me just show you some tricks
Yeah.
to remember, you
Yeah.
know, because my mom actually, that was one of the biggest reasons why her students loved her. She would come up with like little like acronyms, you know,
Mhm.
to remember like the way that music notes went. Like, did you ever hear every good boy does fine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an old one. My mom didn't come up with that one, but
Yeah.
then like she would change that because like it's kind of a little bit weird if you think
Yeah.
about it. Like, especially in 2020, if you say like every good boy does fine, it's like that's creepy,
Yeah.
you know, like, but one cool part would be like she would take like a current event or like some like current artist and she would slide in that to the E or the B or the
Mhm.
G, and then that way the kids are like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Mhm.
They'd remember it that day.
Yeah.
You know, and they'd never forget
Just
it
make
too.
it relevant.
Well, right. And then they'd never forget it. So they'd come back and visit her. Like, I'm not even
Mhm.
kidding. 10 years later. And then they'd be like, you know what, Mrs. Hammer, I still remember blah, 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 you know,
Yeah.
and like their own version of it. And my mom told me it was kind of a cool trip to like have the different students over, because she taught for over 20 years. So she would
Yeah.
have different students come back and tell their versions of E, B, G, D, A,
Right.
E or whatever, or or every good boy does fine, or E, G, B, D, F. And then, you know, there's bass clef too. There's all kinds of ways to remember stuff, but
Mhm.
I mean, that kind of stuff can really help you, you know, like just like measure twice, cut once, you know,
Yeah.
it's like I don't even know how to do any like construction stuff, but like once I learned that, it really did have me like check twice before making holes, because like you may have seen on another previous episode of the M&E podcast, Kate mentioned how many holes I left in my or our last
Trust
apartment.
me, you haven't seen anything. You only.
Did we take pictures or video?
Yeah.
Because maybe we'll release that to the Patreon.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's
Like,
creative.
well,
It's creative how you
just-
approach the,
I'm 6'4".
the wall.
So, you know, if you put 2 and 2 together, I'm 6'4" and I like my coffee like a little kid does it. I'm gonna put holes in a lot of things, okay? Like that's just the way it works. But yeah. My notes went away. Just to let the audience know, I started we started using these cards, the Google Slides.
Google
to,
Slides. Give us
to
a little
kinda-
outline.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, give us
Yeah.
a little bit of an outline, because you know, the last thing we want to do is you know, sit here and flounder, because after all, we do really appreciate that you guys are taking the time to tune in with us, and just want to remind you to go to patreon.com/machine emotion if you want to see everything. Now, that's every episode that we've ever put out. And mind you, we're only on episode 5 right now, but we plan to do this a lot, and we plan to bring you a lot of different content. Kate has a lot planned on her end individually. I have a lot planned on my end individually. And then we have a great network of talented people, brilliant people as well, that we plan on featuring and inviting into our studio here at Moon Labs. So again, please go to patreon.com/machine emotion. You'll see a link in the description for the episode, and, you know, go ahead and subscribe and become a patron, because we really appreciate your support.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to touch on that. I really appreciate, I follow a lot of different comedians, and mostly like comedy themed podcasts or comedy adjacent podcasts. And I've been seeing how not only in LA, but in New York, the more prominent, affluent, successful comedians have been getting together and trying to put together like a pool of money, so that like the servers and all
Yeah.
the people the staff that basically supports them, so that they take care of the audience that makes their career possible, you know, like the cooks in the kitchen. You
Yeah.
know, it's like they're putting together a fund
It's
to
kind
take
of
care
like
of these
tipping the
people.
busser.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, because I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to clean that table to make sure that it's ready for
Yeah.
the next table, you know? And I
Yeah.
mean, that's like, I was a
If
busser.
the club's open but there's nobody to staff them or
Yeah.
work them, then it's like,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really beautiful because I doubt the banking industry is putting together a fund to take care of the tellers that aren't working. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's some type of insurance that, tellers
Well,
might
I
be able to
think in
have,
this
but
type of
like,
scenario, it just really kind of shows the true colors of organizations and
yeah,
platforms
yeah,
and groups of people. And you know
yeah.
what I mean? So it's like you can kind of only be surprised in good and bad ways.
Well,
You know
right,
what I
right.
mean? Where
Well,
you're like, oh wow, that's a lot better than like the baseline or the
exactly,
average. That's more
exactly.
generous within this community. And then you look at others, you're like, damn, that's cold. Like
Right,
for me, I felt like
exactly.
everybody getting laid off like the first week of things. It's like, I mean, I just go back to that and I'm like, man, but
Yeah.
then again, it's like I guess if we're all being told to stay home, like
It's a
commerce
capitalist country.
shuts down.
It's
Yeah,
a capitalist country,
it's just
and
crazy.
Akash from Flagrant 2, shout out to Akash and Andrew Schultz. Akash was talking about that, from a market standpoint, because he seems to be a little bit more of an investor, because he's commented on the market a few times, and he said, investors are scared right now, and the way they look at it is everything's shutting down, so sell for now and get what you can out of the market. And then worst comes to worst, if you lose a few bucks having to buy back too expensive, that's better than losing all of your money
Mm-hmm.
while it goes down, and that's a good
Yeah.
standpoint. I mean, this isn't financial advice, obviously. It's never financial advice from us because we're not financial advisors, but that is kind of a good take, and I do adopt a little bit of that principle sometimes. You always want to protect capital when you're investing, and it isn't a bad idea to sometimes hedge your bets, sell, and buy back later on. So, here at the M&E podcast, we like to toss out some knowledge sometimes, and that has fared well for me in the past when I've been a little bit scared of how one of my investments might go. I might, protect some capital and sell half, buy some of that back later and whatnot. So, if that's something you're thinking about doing with your stocks or your investments or whatnot, it might be good to contact your financial advisor and have a talk with them right now, because there's no use sitting at home freaking out about it, and
Mm-hmm.
worrying about it. And if you're lucky enough to have investments, congratulations. And, you want to try and protect yourself and protect your family and, prioritize. So shout out to Akash and Andrew again, because they've been doing their own like quarantine podcasts, and they've been doing Flagrant 2, and they're tossing out all kinds of knowledge, whereas like a lot of other podcasts, are just kind of talking about their experience with it all, which that's totally cool too. But it's like to be able to add an element to give back to the public when they're obviously sitting at home too. Everybody should be sitting at home. So it's like to just be able to give some knowledge out, I think is really cool, and it's been helping me. I mean, just we talked about it last podcast, but just the fact that now I know that a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth in GDP. Like now I don't have to be like talking about recession and wonder like, am I talking about this the right way? So that was cool. What's going on with you?
Just build my outdoor oasis.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since we know we're going to be locked down, I'm kind of like, all right. A little background. I was a competitive swimmer for 15 years. So I really love to be near the water, in the water, like hear water, see water. Big fan of water. But going to a swimming pool isn't going to necessarily be possible. I don't think. No, wouldn't be possible. I haven't looked into it, but I would assume it's not possible.
Well, and you didn't look into it before, so
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know that that's going to happen. So that being said, I started looking into different ways that I could kind of give myself like an outdoor pool. Not that I'm going to swim laps or get any workout in, but just to kind of relax and kick back. And I was pretty excited. I found this like pop-up foldable like pet bath is essentially how they're labeling it. But I was like, well, that'll be cool because I could even put in like 8 inches of water, toss in a float, and like sit there and chill. And then if the pups want to jump in, they can, but like, it'll work. And so I ordered it and it got here and it's actually really big. Like it's a 63-inch diameter, which I mean, I knew what that was I knew it was going to be like, okay, it was going to be at least 5 feet, but it's like, it's pretty spacious. So I'm excited. I found a spot like in our back deck where we can have it under like the sun and the shade, kind of depending on what we're going for. So yeah, I'm going to write a blog post where I or maybe it'll be a vlog. We'll see. Where I detail out kind of like how you can create your own backyard or patio, whatever you have available to you, like your own calm and oasis space for less than $100. I think you could probably do it for a lot less. Like if you have things like a hose, like we wanted to get a new hose because the one that's here is like busted. So
yeah.
that was like $40, where if it was in better condition, we wouldn't have spent it. So it's like, if you
Right.
already have a hose, then you're in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be coming soon. But I want to wait till it's all set up and take some photos and videos. And then that way, when I kind of detail out the elements that went into building it, people can be like, oh, okay. Because right now it probably just sounds strange.
Yeah. No,
Kate bought a pet bath for herself.
no,
It's true.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I will admit, when you first told me about it compared to when it got here, way different reaction. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. It was more like, okay, Kate's getting a little project,
Here
or
she goes.
she's bored,
Yeah.
which I get. I mean, you're stuck at home for a while when you're used to commuting to work at least 5 days a week. So it's like you're probably going more stir crazy than I am, which I'm a lot more accustomed to being here or being inside for long periods of time working from home. But when it got here, I was pleasantly surprised with how it was, and the picture, which if Kate feels like sharing later on, we can share with the Patreon.
I took a very excited selfie when I first got it.
While she was in the pool, with no water and clothes on, so don't get too excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool. And then the hose that she mentioned, light hose, like
it's one of those flexi hoses, which
weird.
like you've seen on an infomercial because they've been out for a while.
Right.
But like,
I've never touched one.
I was like so surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing weighs like a
so
pound or two. We'll see
Yeah.
how it holds up. But I'm
Right.
remaining optimistic
I'm
because I
remaining
just feel
super
like
optimistic. Well, because I was touching on earlier, rubber I think was just used for so long because that's what people use, but it's like there had to be a lot better, like poly whatever, and then like there's stuff now obviously that they never created before, like plastic, or like, I shouldn't say plastic because plastic's bad, but you know what I mean, like hybrids of like different chemicals that like they can simulate now in the lab that aren't hurting the environment as much because they're able to do like this percent this percent this, because they said it has like, I forget what they use, but it's some type of chemical that I had heard about, but only with like ballistics and like aircraft, and stuff like that. But now they're able to use this type of stuff because I would imagine, just shooting from the hip, that the air industry probably sells like decommissioned planes, and says, hey, we've got all this aircraft.
I would think it's more a patent thing.
Yeah,
where like
maybe.
It was probably a patent for the initial design, which covered X
that
amount
makes
of
sense.
years, maybe in the Air Force industry or
Right. And then it
aerospace, and then it
expires, so anybody
expires.
can
So
use
then
it.
they're like,
Yeah.
here's all these other applications of use for it.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I mean, there's all kinds of advances that are fascinating me these days. Like I heard, I think it's called Vanta Black, which is like the only like true like black, as far as like using like when you put like a dye on something, like you can put like you could cover this table in Vanta Black and it would almost seem like it's not on camera because it's so dark. So like they're working on like things, and then like I think it's LG is the only TV that technically shows like true black, and then it's like I need to look into that myself, but it's amazing to think like, wait, I thought I saw the color black, or I thought I saw green, and they're like, nah, that's not real green, that's like whatever. And do you remember that video we saw the other day? It's by a guy named Gerald Undone. Shout out to Gerald Undone. He does really, really fascinating, like in-depth, well-researched videos and tutorials and like fun facts, and he kind of shows you behind the scenes of how things work. And he was explaining about the updates for the Ninja or the Atomos Ninja 5 monitor, which we use for monitoring and occasionally for recording. And it was cool to learn that sometimes the way cameras record isn't exactly the way that you would want to have them give you the footage for post-production. I'm trying to kind of simplify it so I don't talk over people's heads. But it was cool to learn some of that stuff because I didn't even know, after 10 plus years of shooting and editing, certain things about other things that I knew before. Like I knew parameters, just to put it simply, but I didn't know why they were what they were and why you want to stay within certain parameters and why you might want to use the full spectrum some other times. So kind of cool, been nerding out, learning some more stuff. And, again, to go back to me playing guitar, I learned a lot about like noise gates and, other stuff, which helped us to be able to do this podcast, first of all. To be able to dial in like this professional sound where we're in our garage and, we do have neighbors and we live in a neighborhood in LA. So normally if we didn't have a noise gate on, you would hear the noise of the background and just, all kinds of stuff. But I mean, you wouldn't know whether we're in a treated sound studio or not, because thankfully, there's technology that allows you to be able to harness certain things, limit the sound coming
I
in.
don't know.
and-
When Shadow drinks his water, it's kind of a dead giveaway that we're not in the.
That's true. No, but
No, I'm
but
just kidding.
you could have Shadow in the water ball or the water bowl in a studio. I don't know if they would let that fly
I doubt
though.
it.
Yeah,
I doubt it. Only
should-
at Moon Labs is that a thing.
right.
Pups involved.
But at Moon Labs, you can have your dog and its water bowl.
Yeah, you can have both.
Yeah.
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 The
Notice I
dog
didn't
doesn't
say
have to go without.
right. Notice I didn't say his water bowl either, because we are, equal opportunity here as far as dogs go.
Sure. Gender
Just-
neutral.
I was
Yeah.
just being silly, because it is LA after all. So it's fun to be silly about those things. But speaking of which, it is kind of interesting that like so much news, for months leading up to Corona was about, little things that, and I don't want to minimize them, but like little things that are niche, meaning that only in America are they really talked about. And then a lot of and I'm not going to go into which, you know what I'm talking about. But now that we have the coronavirus pandemic and a lot more baseline things like food, water, shelter, employment, I've just noticed a lot of other things overall besides those have completely gone to the wayside.
Yeah, they're not getting a large share of voice.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just really interesting how like everything in the news now is pretty much related to baseline, I don't know, necessities.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it would be a waste of the news time at this point to
Sure.
cover things that aren't front and center and what people have questions about,
But I guess that's what I'm getting to is like, why was it deemed important to cover before?
because we didn't have a pandemic,
I guess so.
because we
Yeah.
didn't have medical supplies that are being, hoarded by rich people and by wealthy companies. And
Yeah.
yeah, we
It's
didn't
just-
have no vaccine for this thing that has a rapidly increasing death rate.
I guess right. Good way to put it, Kate. But no, I guess then I'm realizing in the moment how I haven't processed this thing. Like not
Yeah,
even like a quarter.
I know.
Like
No,
I thought, oh okay,
Most
no,
people
I've
haven't.
gotten a hold of things.
Yeah.
I know how things are. No, I have
No.
I'm just telling myself to calm the fuck down and
Yeah, I know.
And,
I'm thinking the
know.
next episode we do, I'm going to do a deep dive of just like what it means to be in the hospital, the type of people who are on the front lines there, from the nurses, the attendings to the, respiratory techs, everybody, like kind of to walk people through. Cause it's like, you think that coronavirus is far away from you, or you don't have it, or you don't know anybody that has it. But
right.
I think within a month that like percentage of people that are impacted is going to change, whether it's people who have it, who have just had to go through whatever it is, like
Yeah.
the people who are like 1 degree away from somebody who has it or has experienced going to the hospital to check for it or something, like that percentage is going to increase. And I just think people don't really know what they're in for,
Right.
And they don't really understand the constraints that we're operating within. I think that's also what people kind of get lost about. Like
Right.
I saw a tweet that was like, there was this like, I think 80-year-old priest, or maybe he was 70, but
Mhm.
he was in the hospital and on a ventilator, and he told them to take him off so that somebody younger could get it. And he,
Wow.
and there's going to be a lot of decisions like that. And then I'm
Yeah.
also seeing that families of patients that are in the ICU already that have something unrelated to corona, but they're on a ventilator, they're calling and asking the families, like, do you want to take them off the vent soon? Because we're going to want to, and it's like, those are
Sure.
decisions I had to face, where it was presented to me multiple times, to be
Right.
quite honest,
Yeah,
with my dad.
with your
Multiple
father,
times that
yeah.
situation had been presented to me. And so it's like, I understand what people are on the receiving end, but it's like, see, people aren't even realizing that could be a scenario that's presented to them.
Of course. Yeah.
And that's where I'm just like, man, I think if people were a little bit more aware of what could quickly unfold, they might wash their hands, they might stay inside, they might,
Right,
you know what I mean?
right. I
Like
know
they
what you
might just
mean.
be a little bit more thoughtful.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And then I've heard a lot of people being more flippant and even suspicious, like that maybe this is like a fake thing. But I have friends that work in healthcare, like, and they're like, no, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
we're seeing it all the time. I have a friend who's a heart surgeon's assistant, and like, he was talking about how they had, I think it was like 3 heart attacks in 48 hours come in, and that was before Corona. Like that was
Yeah.
that was when I moved to LA, and I
This
just
is
talked
like,
to him.
yeah,
and he was
what
like,
people
"This is
don't
crazy."
understand, I think, is that hospitals are pretty busy just
Yeah.
with business as usual.
They're at full capacity.
So like they're
normally.
usually, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I spent about 6 months bouncing between two of the top hospitals in
Right,
Cleveland, right?
right.
And both of them are training institutions.
right.
And
And
so
one's one of the top in the world, right?
yeah, according to something. So it's like, I feel like I had that coupled with my detailed like perception of things. It's like
Right.
I experienced a lot, right? And
Yeah.
even just like there were times where it's like, my dad was a MICU patient, but they didn't have a room within the MICU, within the MICU unit.
What's
So-
the MICU?
medical intensive care unit.
Oh, okay.
So then he's being boarded in like the cardiovascular ICU unit. And it's
Sure.
like, okay, well, that means his primary team is building or two over. It's like none of that's ideal. And what people have to realize is like if you get sick in this pandemic and you're going through a hospital, like you're not going through the hospital in the ideal scenario where they're like fully ready for you.
Sure.
Like that's just not how it works.
They're preparing for a general.
And coupled with the
Yeah.
fact that because of coronavirus and it being an infectious disease and it
Mm-hmm.
being super viral, they're quarantining people, right? So
Right.
it's like of those in the hospital, they might not necessarily have a patient advocate that can be there to understand everything's going on.
Sure.
So if you have a case where somebody is then intubated and on a ventilator in the ICU and they're unable to speak or say what their wishes or wants are, and then their loved one is not able to be in the hospital or even be in that unit or have a face-to-face talk with the doctor or the nurse that's caring for them,
Yeah.
that's not a scenario I wish upon anybody.
Right. Right.
I mean, and that is like, that really breaks my heart because it's like I got to be there bedside for all of it. I got to meet everybody. I got to talk to everybody. I got
Yeah.
to see test results. I
people
got to
even
look at
thought
scans.
you were
I
a
was
resident,
thorough.
right?
I was
Or-
thorough.
No, people even thought you were an attending or
People thought all types of things.
right.
I
But
just
I mean,
asked
you
a
were
lot
there
of
so
questions.
much
Yes,
is what I'm
yes.
getting at. That like people are like, do you work here? Like, are you, whereas like I'm sure a lot of other family members don't have the extended or not, family members of people in the hospital like you had with your father. I'm sure it's not the normal experience having as long of a stay
Right.
as you had.
No.
I mean, you lived there. Like,
I was
you'd-
like
you'd
camped
video
out.
with me, and I'd be like, "Where are you?" And you're like, "I'm taking a nap on the windowsill." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's strange."
Yeah.
And I don't mean like that offensively. I mean like that's how dedicated obviously you were to being there for your father, and how like that's just an experience that I guess it's kind of like how it goes is that when you're in there for those types of things, then that's what you're doing at that time. So but let's go ahead and move on to a different subject to keep it light. Last night's dessert, do you want to talk about that? Because that was
Sure.
pretty delicious.
Yeah.
I had taken a nap, and then I had woken up to Kate telling me that she was working on some kind of concoction. We have some old bananas because we went a little crazy stocking up all the bananas, and then naturally they ripen, and then they kind of get old, and then banana bread isn't always the most practical way to source them. So, what did you do with the bananas?
Yeah, so I found a recipe online. It was simple enough. I'm like, okay, I can try this. Essentially, all you had to do is slice the bananas up. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Nice.
Put it into an oven-safe dish. I'm like, check.
Pyrex type thing?
Pour in heavy cream. And
What type of dish was it?
I don't
though?
know. It was a glass dish.
Okay, glass.
Yeah,
I just want
glass,
to describe
like,
for the audience in
oven,
case they're like,
yeah.
I have a lot of dishes. like,
A oven safe dish,
Okay.
something that can withstand heat and being broiled.
there you go. Cool.
So yeah, I chopped up the bananas, put in the heavy cream, sprinkle brown sugar and salt, and broil until it's just kind of like bubbly and it's getting nice and caramelized from the sugar. It was so good.
It was delicious.
It was
Well, and
so
what was
good.
cool was I appreciate the fact that not only you made it and kind of figured it out, but you added like 2 different times you added brown sugar and had it like brown a little bit more. So it's like
Mhm.
I doubt it would have been as delicious if you would have stopped at the first time. So appreciate you being thorough. Third time's a charm. And yeah, we had that dish. What do you call it? Do you have a name for it?
No.
Moon banana pie. I don't know.
Yeah.
But one thing I was thinking about is if we could have some type of way of like taking it like with like a baster, and then like injecting
Mhm.
that into like some type of like pastry. I'm telling you, like if you guys make what she's talking about, and then you can somehow make that like the filling of like a pie or whatever, I just think that'd be incredible. You'll take a nap right afterwards because it'll
Yeah.
be It'll be incredibly filling and probably sugar and carb filled, but really, really good. So yeah, thank you. That was a good dessert last night. And don't we have leftovers?
Yep.
And it is morning, so if you want to go have some breakfast with me with the leftovers, that'd be kind of fun. All right, well, cool. Thanks
Sounds
for
like
joining us for episode 5 of the M&E podcast. This has been Adult Swim.
Thanks.
Whistle sound. Stay safe.
Stay sane.